Charles, welcome to Living Off Rentals.
Hey man, awesome. It's so good to be here, Kirby. And just meeting you in person in Phoenix, Arizona was awesome, man. So I'm so glad to be here. And before we even jump in, I just wanted to mention how awesome your podcast and everything you're doing is. It's just so amazing, man. I just I listened to a few episodes early on just to figure out what's going to be the format. But man, I got hooked. I got hooked on your podcast, man. So I love the content, and I just want to encourage everyone to continue listening to the awesome content that you're showing.
Well, that is awesome, man. I'll Venmo you that money that I said I'd send you if you said nice things. So I'll send that to you after this. I appreciate that, man.
I don't get paid for any of this, but I love your podcast, Kirby. Seriously, and I listened to episode with Robert Kiyosaki and so many different people. People who went from homeless and living in the car to being a real estate investor. It was just so inspiring. Man, so please keep it up what you're doing, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I think people are going to be super inspired today by your story, which is why I wanted to have you on here. I just met Charles, man, it was about a week ago at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference in Phoenix, like you mentioned. RubeCon is what it's also known as. And we met walking out of our hotel rooms at the exact same time. He had a hotel room right across the hall, and we were going to a speaker's dinner because we were both speaking at the event. And so we ended up sitting together at dinner, and then ended up being placed at the same table at the following VIP lunch the next day, and really got to know each other. And hearing your story and just your character and all of it, you're just like the perfect example for somebody, I think, who's in this community, who listens to this show, who, you're the type of person who just decided, the status quo wasn't going to be good enough for you. And you decided that you were going to not have to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of your life. And you're going to do something about it at a young age, and really change your family's future. And so you've done that over the last couple of years by building this rental portfolio. And so I think it's pretty inspiring. And I really want to hear more about that. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show tonight.
Absolutely. It is great to be here, man. And so, yeah, that was just, I like I was telling you, I just feel like we were sat next to each other on purpose, and it may seem random, but the process was random, but I believe it was on purpose, man. And I'm so glad to be able to be here to share my story, to inspire others. And so, yeah, a little bit about my story. I came to the USA on a one-way airplane ticket. Yeah, in hopes of fulfilling my dreams.
Bridges.
And I know, like, literally a one-way airplane ticket. And, coming from the island, this was something that's crazy for island people. So I grew up in the Bahamas, walking around the streets barefoot, climbing coconut tree. No, I'm just kidding. It's not.
That's not what it is.
Not exactly.
Don't burst the
bubble. I like to keep my shoes on, but I did eat a lot of coconuts growing up.
Nice.
And so, but yeah, so coming from the Bahamas to the US, is a big deal for a lot of people on the island, just because, if especially like the amount of money that I had to pay for school fees, and I came over here not even having that money. My parents their combined income wasn't even enough to pay for my school fees. But I had a dream to go to the USA to start my life and become a civil engineer. And I always wanted to do investing, but the engineering path kind of is where I started. And so I came to the USA on a one-way airplane ticket and didn't know what was going to happen. Almost got kicked out of the school or the university because I couldn't pay. So it was crazy. I was 17 years old when that happened. And so, but, it's a long story, but, just fast forward, praise the Lord, I was able to graduate UNC Charlotte, on a fully debt-free, things really worked out. for me to continue being in the U.S. as well, even though I almost got kicked out. And and my story was like aired on TV in the Bahamas and everything, and it was
Wow.
just. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Everybody on the island thought I was crazy for like, coming to the US on a one-way ticket, not knowing how I'm going to pay for college and everything. And so that was sort of the beginning.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
it
And
was it, it was
how'd you,
awesome.
sorry to interrupt. How'd you do it debt
Yeah,
free, by the way?
yeah, so my story was actually unique. So I applied for a lot of scholarships,
Okay.
and but I barely got any of them.
Mm.
I barely got any of them. It's so crazy. I only my last year of college. So my last year of college is when I got like full scholarships. My last year, but the first 3 years was interesting. And so you remember I told you how I almost got kicked out of the college because I couldn't pay, and so it happened to come through. A grant came through right in time to pay for that first semester. But then the next semesters and the following after that, I didn't have any money. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And so my story was aired on TV in the Bahamas, how I came to the USA on a one-way airplane ticket, all in faith. And, so many people from the island, and even like people from the US and England, was wondering how can I help this young man out.
Wow.
And so my story is a little bit unique, where most of my school was funded sort of through grassroots efforts, and it's crazy because I didn't go on TV asking for money.
Hmm.
And so that just shows that whatever you go for in life, when you put your all into it, when you go at it in full faith and full efforts, the things just, some people say describe it like this, it's attracted to you. And so, and the same thing in real estate. When I decided to get into real estate all in, things just started falling into place. Of course, me doing my part. When I say things fall into place, I'm not saying that this is a overnight success type of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
You
When
put
I
in the work.
You put into work, you got to put
Yeah.
into work, but when you put into work, then things start to fall in place. I do want to stress that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. What an amazing story. And I do want to get into, the transition from civil engineering to real estate and how that happened. But I did want to mention this is sort of a unique episode because we're recording this in the evening. Charles is still working his 9 to 5. So, I'm for people who know me, they know that my brain is typically solar powered. So it's difficult for me to operate in the evening. But I brought a rum and coke to assist me because I knew you were from the island. So it's my first time drinking a rum and coke while recording a podcast. So we'll see where this goes. I don't know. It could get pretty entertaining.
It sure can, man. If I knew
So,
that, man, I would have tried to send you. So we have a famous drink called Bahama Mama, and it's
okay.
like it's rum with like orange juice, pineapple juice, and some grenadine. It's a simple recipe, but
Man.
good.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's yeah, tribute to you and all you've accomplished. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I did want to get into like, so obviously you overcame a lot to get through school and you did it debt free and you started working then. So so tell me about the transit. When did you graduate? And then talk to me about the transition of how you decided that you wanted to get into real estate investing.
Yeah. So I graduated college in 2014, and I started working my regular engineering job and in the construction industry. And I've been blessed to work at a really good company. Um, but one of the things that I started to realize over time is at any moment, anyone can be, can be let go at these companies. And while we hear a lot of stories of people who get fired, sometimes it may not be that you get fired, but you don't have that freedom. And so when I started to think on these things, and I remember like having to everybody have a turning point. Some people, maybe they got fired, or maybe they dealt with a really bad supervisor, or whatever the case may be. And for me, one of the things that was eye opening was, I remember um having to uh yeah, so I met certain standards for a raise, and my supervisor was like, I'm going to put it in, and I was like, I had to fight for that raise for like almost 2 years, which was crazy. And so yeah, so I was like, I got it eventually, but I was like, you know I'm not gonna have to go through this again. I was like, I'm not gonna depend on the company. I'm not gonna depend on the government. I'm not gonna depend on anyone to go after my future, and to be financially free. And so for me, that moment was like a turning point, looking at everything. I had to go through that. And I just thought about, imagine if I have to go through this all the time to feed my family, and my wife and I start having kids and all these different things. So I'm like, I'm not gonna have to do it. I'm thankful to be where I'm at. I'm thankful to provide for my family. But at the same time, having that freedom, that financial freedom is so important to me. And so, at that point, I was all in real estate. And that's when I met Dustin, just through looking for some sort of coaching. And so funny story how I found Dustin. I originally wanted to get into Airbnbs. I had this whole
Ah.
plan. I'm going to get into Airbnb, and I got a website, everything. Didn't know what I was doing at all. Thank God I didn't. I've put in offers, all this stuff before I met Dustin. Like
Yeah.
before, I want to stress that, because if Dustin is listening to the episode, you're like, no way you're going to do it that way before. Because, Dustin always teach to build the business first,
Yeah.
right? But
Hmm.
I didn't do it that route. But thankfully, that route did not work out. And I actually, so a friend of mine from church, he mentioned about a master Airbnb class, and I forgot to write down like the website and everything. And so I went home that night looking for master Airbnb, but couldn't find it on Google. But I ended up finding master passive income, and it was an
That's
article Dustin
hilarious.
had on the differences between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. And he spoke very well of both of them, and he talked about just to figure out what kind of person are you, and which one you want to get started with. And so I thought about long-term, right? So then that's how I met Dustin, and ended up signing up for his coaching and programs. And I ended up like renewing my coaching with him, because I was like, man, I just got to soak in that knowledge. I mean, you met Dustin just to be around someone like him, and how inspiring he is, and how selfless he is. I was like, I got to stay connected to this
Yeah.
guy. And yeah, and
And
just
by the
so
way,
he
just for the listeners, he's referring to Charles, referring to Dustin Heiner, who was on episode, I think it was 103 or 104 of the podcast. So you can go back and hear from him. But he's the guy actually who started the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference where Charles and I met. So obviously had a big impact on Charles. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good interjection. Absolutely. And I should say Dustin Heiner. Not everybody know who just Dustin is.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah, so I just signed up for uh, Dustin Heiner's course with Master Passive Income, and I renewed the course, and then I started to work on his team. He got me in to work on his team, which is fantastic. Just working with him, just getting to help so many people is so amazing. But just before I get too far along in the story, I'm jumping ahead and jumping all over the place. So I know you're trying to keep that timeline. So my wife and I, we decided to get into real estate in 2019. So I graduated in 2014. We got into real estate in 2019, and got some coaching with Dustin,
Nice.
and we were able to purchase our first property in at the very end of 2019, which was a duplex. So we had two doors at the end, and our goal was to close two properties at the end of 2019. By the end of 2019, and we were able to close that duplex right on time. Like it was December 30th, 2019.
Wow.
So it was, yes, I was, felt like it took us a while to get that first property, but we had to really keep at it. There was some times where I almost felt like giving up and was looking in different markets. But, thankfully we had Dustin to keep pushing us through and reminding me to be patient and all that stuff. So close on this first property, and then we were able to close another property about 3 months later. So at the beginning of 2020, which was awesome. So we were like so excited to be able to own two properties at this time with a total of three rental units. And so we and we wanted to continue closing properties, and we wanted to buy more and more and to achieve our financial freedom goals. But there was only one problem. We were out of money. So yeah, because we spent everything. Oh yes, that happened, especially early on. And so we were like,
were you financing them with conventional financing and using your own money for the down payments, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly. We did the conventional financing on the first property. And with that duplex, we brought 25% down. And then on the second property, we actually used hard money, but we also had to bring we had to bring money to the closing. I can't remember what it was, maybe 15 or 20%, just because of the value of the property, the way it worked out. Okay. So we did, so we used conventional on one, and then we used hard money, but we used down payments on both the deals. So we had drained all of the money we had saved up. And so we just, we didn't know what to do from there. And so, yeah, and that was around the point when I renewed for coaching with Dustin. I was like, okay, I got to keep this momentum going. And, the money that we invested in coaching. So we don't say money we spent on coaching and education anymore. We call it investing. So the money we invested in education with Dustin, we made that back, many times over from those first deals, just because of how he teach you how to do the business right. And so we were like, okay, it's a no-brainer to sign up for to renew our coaching. And one of my goals was to find creative ways to fund properties. And so we've tapped into a number of ways, but one of the ways that we were really able to tap into and figure out the system is private money. And that's why Dustin had me speak at the conference on it, because the private money, it was so awesome to be able to use it and to build our private money network, whereas we were able to like close properties after properties, and and a lot of those properties we were able to close with 100% financing using private money, which was awesome to be able to do that. And so we use some other creative methods too. I mean, we've even used a signature loan to buy a property, but I don't encourage people to do that right away unless you know what you're doing, because you got to make sure the numbers work before you do something like that. But we really tapped into private money. And in fact, we were even able to close, just even like in 1 month, we had closed like 4 deals using private money, 100% financing. And
while working a full-time job.
Amazing. While working a full-time job. Can you believe that?
That's hardcore.
So, yeah. So that's, so we really, tap into private money we for our deals, and then we refinance it with a long-term lender.
Yeah.
And, one of the deals that we focus on too, because some people may be listening and wondering, okay, how can I do that too?
Yeah.
And so you could use private money and still bring a down payment to the table. But the way we do it is we like to use 100% financing, which is totally possible. I remember reading Robert G. Allen's book, Nothing Down, and was like, is this guy crazy? Like, no money down? What is he talking about? And now here am I, like, doing deal after deal just like that. But the types of deals that we look for is we try to, we follow the 70% rule, where we look for 70% of the ARV, all right, minus the repairs. And the ARV is just for those who don't know, is the after repair value of the property. And those type of deals are very attractive to private money lenders. And so you could do other deals with private money lenders that may not meet the 70% rule. But what we found is when we get that type of discount, we can do we can close that deal with almost any private money lender. And even if we needed to use a hard money lender's backup, it's still an attractive deal for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so. I want to put a pin in the financing aspect real quick because I definitely want to get back to that because that's really interesting. I hear people all the time say, well, I haven't saved up down payments, so there's no way I can get into rental property ownership. And I'm like, there's so many options right now for funding. You can combine all different kinds of funding. You can just use, like you said, private money 100%. So I want to get back to that. But first, I want to kind of hear about how you initially decided on where you wanted to invest. So you started working with Dustin in 2019. You said it took a little while to figure out, you looked at different markets. So what market are you investing in now? I guess, is it the same as where you started, and how did you decide on that market?
Yeah, so I'll share how we got to that point. So we live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we, just like most investors, were like, I want to invest local. I want to be able to drive to the property.
Yeah.
I want to be able to take care of some things on my own, save money on repair costs. Yeah, that's kind of how we kind of started off with that mindset. And the issue with that was, around that time, if you look at some of the migration charts and everything, a lot of, so Charlotte, Raleigh, those cities in North Carolina, they're both on the top 10 fastest growing cities in the U.S. So, wow. A lot of people have been moving in the Carolinas, especially in Charlotte. And so with the issue that we faced with that is that, a lot of properties are selling for way more than what it's worth. And so people are like, so we were constantly being outbidded by an investor from California or New York
yeah,
or somewhere else, someone with a lot of money
for them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's like when some of them like some friends of mine live in California, and they have like a 1,200 square feet house, and they paid like $1.2 million for it. So if they so when they see something in Charlotte for 150 or 200 or even 300,000 or whatever the price is, for them it looks like pennies, and it's an even nicer area than where they may be living in California. So they will gladly pay 20, 30, even $50,000 over ask. And so that was a challenge for us. And so we started, okay, well, we don't really have to invest in Charlotte. Let's just, maybe you can be within an hour and a half. And so we then looked into Columbia, South Carolina, and we really thought that it was going to be Columbia. And we drove there some weekends, going with our realtors, like looking at properties. And I mean, that guy, he was so nice. I mean, I just wanted to buy properties in that area just because how nice he was. And I mean, he was a great guy. Yeah. He was so patient. He spent like so many hours with us, but come to find out we ended up not getting any properties in that area. But we put a lot of time and effort and energy. And, that was the point where I almost gave up because, I was like, at this point, I'd made that decision to get into real estate, and probably in about February of 2019. And, so we're, months into this right now. We started off doing it on our own. Thank God we didn't get any of those offers on our own, because we probably would have been losing money. But then we then halfway through got some coaching with Dustin, started doing it right, building the business first. So we're all the way to about October, like end of October. Still, we haven't gotten a property yet. And I remember, like, we almost got this duplex. We got an approval via email from the seller. They agreed, but they hadn't signed a contract yet. So Kirby, I'm sure that email is worth the paper it's on, right? You have to get it under contract, right?
Exactly.
And so And so but we really thought they would sign, they keep on giving us an excuse, Then finally, like a month later, we find out that they gave the deal to somebody else. And
Mm.
so, this was like, it was devastating for me at that point because I'm like, man, I'm wondering, like, when is this going to happen? And, I had looked at hundreds of deals and put in probably even hundreds of offers too at that point, just between Charlotte and Columbia, South Carolina.
Wow.
And so it was so discouraging. And I remember, like, for like probably like maybe 2 weeks, I had stopped like looking at properties. And I share this part of the story too, because, some people look at me now and think like, they wouldn't know that I went through that point. So I stopped looking at properties. I was like, it was very discouraging. I didn't give up per se at that point. I just felt like a blow,
Mm.
And so then, I remember my wife, thank God for my wife. She was like, she encouraged me, and she was like, remember, why you did this. Remember, you said you're going to make me proud. And, plus you need to make that money back that you paid Dustin for coaching.
Yeah. More importantly,
or invested in coaching, I should say. Right. And so she just encouraged me. And so I started, getting back into my problem solving mode, because I'm a problem solver. And Dustin was always encouraging me throughout the way. So I reached out to Dustin, talked to him about where I was at. And I asked him, what if I just start looking at different cities? And he's like, that's a great idea. He says, sometimes it's good to be looking in, one or two cities at the beginning, just so you can figure out where's the best place. But absolutely, you want to build a business first, right? And so, because I started, and I ended up choosing Memphis, Tennessee. And I was ready to like put in offers like right away, because I'm like, gosh, like these properties are like great prices. I'm like, I can buy these up right now. And so, and Dustin always encouraged us to build a business first. So we made sure and built that business first, got our team in place, and then, started putting in offers in Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember, so my wife and I, our anniversary is in November. And so we were on our anniversary trip, and it happens to fall on the week of Thanksgiving usually. And so we were in the airport, and we got our first deal under contract whilst we were in the airport flying to New York for our anniversary trip, which was so awesome. That was so exciting. So, and, I remember during that whole week, we were like, getting the home inspection scheduled, trying to, just making sure everything is in place. But it was just so awesome. We got our first property under contract while on our anniversary trip, which was the best gift that we could ever ask for at that time. And so, and so from there, things just took off in the business, from closing the first property, and then closing another one, and then learning private money to close more and more deals. And then to be able to come to the point where we're helping others, with Dustin, through Dustin, and just, just helping people in the community. I go to a lot of networking events with the RIA groups. And so just to be able to accomplish that and pay it forward by helping others, it's been it's been an amazing journey, and just so fulfilling, being able to achieve our goals and to also be able to help others. So it's been great, man.
Amazing. Wow. What a great testament for people who are listening to this, who, have been hustling for a while and thinking, man, this market's too tough. It's not working for me. Maybe I should just give up on real estate. I mean, I think you said February, right? 2019 when you started.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, and then what you said, it was November when your anniversary trip was?
Yeah, November is when we got the deal on the contract, the duplex, and then closed it on December 30th, 2019.
Yeah. So hustling for pretty much the entire year of 2019 to get your first deal, and having several fall through, putting in hundreds of or over 100 offers. I mean, that that a lot of people wouldn't wouldn't put up with that, and they think, well, this is too hard. My first offer wasn't accepted. My first 50 offers weren't accepted. But because you didn't say, well, I'll just take a crappy offer because then I can get a deal done, or you didn't say this is just too hard, now you're in this really enviable place several years later. So I want to kind of fast forward a little bit and get into that. So got your first deal December 2019, which was a duplex. Then it started to snowball, which I think happens a lot. So for people who haven't got their first deal yet, this is pretty common, where it's hard because you don't know what you don't know in the beginning. And it was the same way for me. I got out of the Army in 2011 in October. Well, actually, I got home in the summer. My final date after all my leave was spent was October. And I thought by fall, I was going to have all kinds of deals going, and I was going to be, I jumped into real estate full time. It wasn't until March of the next year that I finally got my first deal going. And it was painful, it was because there's a lot to learn in the beginning. But then right after that, a few weeks later, I got another one, and then a few months later, and it snowballed. So it sounds like that was a similar situation to you. So kind of walk me through your progression of deals, if you would.
Yeah. So yeah, we got that first deal on December 30th, 2019.
And that was in Memphis, right?
And that was in Memphis.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then we got another deal in Memphis in like March 2020, which was right around the time of the pandemic. Literally, like we signed as the sky is falling. Like, yeah, we literally signed the contract for that deal. I'm sorry. Well, we did the closing like right before everything shut down. Nice. When there's like mass shutdown and people had to work from home and all that stuff. So we did it all around that same time. And then we decided to like just continue and invest. And so my wife and I, we spoke about it, and we were like, we saw it as an opportunity because, some people stopped buying when the pandemic started, but there were some people who continued investing in real estate. And we decided that, well, this could be a great opportunity for us to continue investing. Because, and even if there's an issue where, the values of properties drop, well, we don't invest in properties for appreciation, right? We invest in properties for the cash flow based on how we build our business model. So so that kind of gave us some comfort to know that, even though we're taking a risk, well, we're taking a more calculated risk, a more risk on the safer side, right? And so we decided to continue investing. And, the third deal was another duplex. And I remember that one being stretched out a little bit longer, because this is when we started to use like some of the creative financing. Whereas, we started to, use different methods, the signature loan, different things. And, so you have to kind of, it's a whole long process to get into. So this is when we started our creative financing. And then we ended up closing that duplex, and then after that, closing that duplex was where the private money kicked in. So I remember we ended up getting another deal while we were closing the duplex, and we were able to find a private money lender. And at this point, we had one of the things I didn't mention. This is one of the things that we teach. We teach people how to use private money. And one of the things we help people do is build their pitch, build a presentation that they could use for some people, like maybe family, friends, or just people who want to learn more about private money, just to take it from an educational approach. And the goal is to build your network at the same time. So we were going through this presentation and this pitch with a lot of different private money lenders. I mean, we were calling up tons of private money lenders. I got like a list from, I bought a subscription into this website with private money lenders. And so we were like calling a ton of different private money lenders, and we were putting into work. We were calling family, friends, anyone that we can talk to private money about, we were calling them up.
Wow.
And I remember, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just
Yeah,
gonna
and
say,
so
what would you say to him when you
yeah,
called
so
people?
so at the beginning we didn't know what to say.
Can you
It
give me
was
some
kind of
money? I need like a hundred
and yet
thousand.
I just 100,000, just give me some money. But which it was good that we called a lot of people up because we got a lot of practice doing that. And one of the greatest things that we learned is figure out what they want, right?
Mm,
And we had to figure out what the private money lender figure out how you could solve their problem, and taking it from that standpoint is like it's already puts you in a different category. Even if you're not a good speaker, even if you feel like you're not a good negotiator, if you try to be a problem solver to that private money lender and figure out what do they need, how can you help them, and positioning it, not just as give me some give me some money, let me some
yeah,
money,
yeah,
but presenting it and position it as a opportunity that you're presenting it to them, presenting it as, hey, I'm trying to help you solve your problem, whatever you need. That's kind of the approach that we take, and that's what we teach other people to do as well. I just gave that presentation at a RIA meeting last week, Thursday, and I had some private money lenders who came up to me and they were like, we never heard somebody mention, be a problem solver to the private money lender, figure out, how you can solve their problem, make it about them. They were like, because, they dealt with a lot of people where, a lot of investors who made it all about themselves.
mm,
And, I have this and I do that and this, and, which is great. Like, you should show your track record, and all that stuff gives you credibility. But, the approach we always take is making it about them.
yeah,
We make it about our private money lender, and then we have our whole kit with experience, showing our experience, all that stuff. But what we find that building that relationship with them, making it about them, solving their problem, is the best way to go about it. So
yes, totally, yeah, yeah. And that's
mm,
the thing that I think a lot of people don't get in the beginning is that you are giving people an opportunity to make a really great return, and in a pretty secure way. I mean, you're offering them in a lot of cases double digit. I use a lot of private money for my deals, and it's presented. There's a lot of people who have more money than they have opportunity to make a secure double digit return on. And so when you present it that way, that you're going to have a mortgage on this property. If I just stop paying you, you should
mhm.
celebrate, because you can take back this property that I just went out and spent the last several months trying to find well below market value. So if I don't pay you, you've got a mortgage, you can just foreclose and take the property over and you get this great deal. Or I can continue to pay you at 10% interest. And, that's better than you're going to get in the stock market. If you might get better than that, but if things fall apart, nobody's going to give you a property, so it's a fantastic opportunity for them. But I think people get so wrapped around the axle of, you know, I'm asking for more money than I've ever asked for before, and it's all about like me. They think about themselves too much. They think
Mhm.
about like, like you said, exactly, like they present it around, I need this money, as opposed to, here's an opportunity. If you don't like it, there's somebody else who has an IRA that they can self-direct, and give me $100,000 and they'll make 10%. So I think that's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah, it's and what you said, like just like what you said, it's a great opportunity for them, and it's a win or a win for them, right? It's not a win or lose. Like they got to
Yeah.
win from you paying them interest, or from them taking this really good property back if you stop paying them. So that's kind of the approach that we take with our private money lenders, and it's been working incredibly well to do it that way. Like, even in our presentation, some people I see, they do their presentations when, the way they started off, they talk all about themselves and all about their certifications, and all that stuff is great. Don't get me wrong. It's really good to have those things, and to even share those things. But the first thing we start talking about is what's in it for them. How are they going to be protected? we figure out what they want to make and those kind of things. That's how we start. And then, oh, by the way, and, we also, have this experience, these qualifications, and all that stuff like that. And so it works out so well when we do it like that. And so, and I give a lot of thanks for Dustin Heiner, because I remember he taught me that a lot. When he looked at the presentation, he was like, okay, Charles, I know you're not a person who's all about yourself. So maybe you want to put the slides up about you in the back and put the slides about them in the front. And I was like, yes, that's a great idea, because it is about them and I want to solve their problem. I want to offer them this incredible opportunity. So that's kind of, how we pitch our deals. And the conversation looks different with everyone just based on where they are, because, the private money lenders, it's not like a traditional bank where you go in, is one set of rules and one set of terms or whatever. You really, figure out where they are and how you can help them where they are. So that's, a little quick lesson on how to approach private money lenders. But one of the cool things is, one of the things I heard you mention is a lot of people, they don't know how they're going to fund their deals, or they don't know how to ask someone for all this money and don't know who to ask. And a cool thing that we actually figured out is, one day I was talking to my title agent, and just letting him know how we use private money and we offer people incredible opportunities to build wealth through it. And he was like, really? He was like, I know several private money lenders, who I could connect you to. I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And so he connected me down to some private money lenders, and one of those private money lenders is like my number one private money lender to this day. I mean, great guy. Like, he calls me up and was like, Charles, do you have any more deals? So he calls me up, and so I try to close with him whenever I can, just because he's been so good and always shows up to the closing table, and always, he's a man of his word. So
yeah.
So it's, I'm sure, Kirby, since you work with private money lenders, you probably have some of your favorites too.
Yeah. Well, it exactly what you just said. It builds on itself. So, initially I think it's like, well, how am I going to ever, raise potentially, if I want to get into like bigger deals, that's like millions of dollars. That seems like out of reach. And, I've been doing this for just over a decade now. And the deals are much bigger problem than the capital. The capital is there if the deals are there at this point. And it was all because of that, like exactly what you said. So I've got one lender, a great example just recently. I've been paying him 8% fixed over many years. And it started off with a very small amount. And then he wanted to invest more because he liked the returns. And then he just introduced me to a friend who's just left the tech industry, just interested in real estate. Never really got into it, but knows the potential. And I had a conversation with him, and then at the end he's like, I got some money I want to invest if you got deals. I was like, okay, and he's like, it's somewhere between 600 and 1.1 million if you can put it to work. And I'm like, wow, like that's more than I expected. But I'll work on that, and so but it was just because I've done well by his friend. So he made that introduction. And so that's how it works. I mean, it just builds on itself over time.
It really does. Yeah. When you have that good reputation, and like, you do definitely want to, when you do this thing, like you definitely pay your private money lenders, if you're going to get into it, like pay them, like, even if I don't get my, I will borrow money if I have to pay my private money lenders. And that's how serious I am about paying them. Praise the Lord, I didn't have to do that, because of the type of deals I look for.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my deals are cash flowing from day one. But if I needed to, I will, because you want to be a man or a woman of your word to your private money lenders, and they will talk about you. And some of my private money lenders I met through existing private money lenders, and so that definitely helps. And you said something that reminded me, like, when you talked about now, money isn't the hardest thing. It's like trying to keep up with all the deals. And so, early on, I mentioned after we closed those first two deals, uh, our problem was that we didn't have enough money. Now our problem is we don't have enough deals.
Yeah.
We have more
Always one or
private
the other.
money. Yeah, it's always one or the other. So now we have like, basically, an unlimited amount of money for the type of deals that we look for, and and not having enough deals to keep up sometimes. And you know how it is, Kirby. Sometimes we think, like when I first got into real estate, I was expecting to close one property after the other, but sometimes it may be a month or two, or it's not like one after the other. It may
Hmm.
be one this month and then four 3 months later.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
because you can't time the market. And so now we're looking for deals, and because we're very strict on on the type of deals that we get, we so we search a little bit harder. But this is the type of deals that we like. We like to make money when we buy the property, so we like to get deals with for good discount. And so you got to put in that hard work. And so we put in, our students at Master Passive Income, they're always amazed when, and I say our students because Dustin has me as a coach in the program.
Nice.
And so the students are so amazed when they find out that my wife and I, we put in, sometimes 10 to 15 offers a day. And
Wow.
they were like, how do you do that? I mean, you have to put in offers in order to get deals. I mean, we have some, I know people who they really want to get into real estate. They really want to invest, but they're putting in maybe one offer a month. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's not going to work in this market.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. A lot
Yeah.
of people are just like hoping that a deal is going to just fly to them or something. And that's not the way it works. Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get into your deals because I think people are probably pretty curious what type of deals, because I think it's important what you said that there's because you're buying the type of deals that you are, there's unlimited money there. And so I think a lot of people don't get that connection, and it's really paramount to understand that, because if you're buying just any old deal, then your money's going to dry up pretty quick, because it's probably not going to perform the way that an investor wants to see it perform. So because you're so discriminate, because you're putting in so many offers and just taking the cream of the crop, investors are lining up to fund your deals, and you're getting 100% financing. So can you talk through what type of deals that you are targeting, and maybe an example of a deal that you've done recently?
Yeah. So the type of deals that we're targeting, so I mentioned earlier where we follow the 70% rule quite often. And so like if the deal is worth 100,000, the ARV is 100,000. After repairs, the property is worth 100,000. So 70% of 100,000 is 70,000. And we also want the repairs and the purchase price to be 70,000 or less. So let's just say, just to make it, simple numbers, the property is worth 100,000, and the purchase price is 50,000, and the repairs is 10,000. I mean, it sounds like a deal we just purchased last month, right? We Because the deal is worth 100,000, and we bought it for 50, and the repairs is 10,000, where we're 60,000 in. So we're under the 70,000. We're under 70% of the ARV. And so when private money lenders see these kind of deals, they love it because it takes a lot of risk away from the deal, and is a great deal. Even if, let's just say, worst case scenario, we stop paying them, well, they could foreclose on the property right away, and they could even sell it at a discount because they lend us 60,000 for the property. Well, they could turn around and easily sell that property for 80,000, 70,000, whatever. They could sell it on a discount, still make more money, and whatever interest we paid them. And so their risk is so much lower with the type of deals we find. And so that's why we end up having a lot of private money lenders who want to do deals with us, because they like those kind of deals. And then we also were very picky about the area. So we're not really, looking at A and B properties because there's a lot more money. But we're right around C, maybe B minus in some areas, right? But typically right around the C. We don't go into D areas and more of the higher C's. And it's cash flowing areas. A lot of the areas are up and coming. Like some of our properties are near the Amazon facility, the Nike plant. Some of our properties are around FedEx. So Memphis is positioned so well, whereas a lot of the FedEx headquarters and a lot of it's just right like in the center, almost at the center where there's a lot of jobs and a lot of stuff going on right there. So our properties are positioned around all of these different areas, whereas there's a lot of renters who have stable jobs, stable income, and so that's some of the things that we look at too, and then screening our tenants as well. We have a tough selection process for that as well. And so, we're very kind of like rigid on, those kind of things because, we're in it to make money as well. And so, because this is something that we're looking to replace our W-2 income to provide for our families. So, so we need to make sure we have stable income. And so those are the kind of things that we look for. These are the type of areas. We also even started our business in Little Rock as well. So that's when my wife fully came on board with everything. She was always, there to support me at the beginning. But at the beginning of 2021, I know I'm jumping all over with the story. Beginning of 2021. So she was towards the end of 2020, she was like, she was like, I'd like to come into business full time with you. I'd like to, help you whatever you need help with. I said, great, because I'd like to, start to expand more. And so she came in and she expanded into Little Rock as well. And which was awesome, to start a new territory with our business. And then she helps with all aspects of the business right now too, mostly the administrative things. She deals with all the deals. So we work as a team to keep everything flowing. And so awesome. She got her degree recently in Christian counseling, but I don't know if she'll ever use that degree. She may, she'll help people for free, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But she's successfully unemployed in our business right now, which is great. And then the goal is, thank you. The goal is for me to transition full time into that too. So it's just been an awesome journey together.
Awesome. Yeah. And so you talked a little bit about the equity piece, if you're buying them, like example, you said, if you're 60 all in and it's worth 100, now you got 40,000 in equity. So you can easily refinance out all the cash that you put into it, that 60,000, because banks will give you 75% of the appraised value. From a cash flow standpoint, what is it that you're targeting? Because you said that's the most important thing to you.
Yeah, so we follow the master passive income model to the T with Dustin Heiner, and so we look for at least 250 or more in cash flow on all of our properties. And this is after the mortgage, after the insurance, taxes, and also having savings every month for potential vacancies and repairs as well. So after all of that, we shoot for at least 250 or more for each one of our units. And so we're able to get more often. On some deals, we'll take even if it's 250, we'll take it right away. But being in Memphis market and Little Rock, we're able to get some really good cash flowing deals.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a solid little rental property then. If you're getting 250 or more in free cash flow. So what is your goal? So you talked about your wife being able to work in the business full time, which is awesome. And like you mentioned, it's so cool. She got a Christian counseling degree, but she's in a position now where she can use that degree at will, and she can volunteer and maybe help on a larger level than if she had to show up to a 9 to 5 and check the boxes and do the things that are going to, provide for a family, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have the flexibility to show up because you want to and take the roles that you want to because you don't have to bring home a paycheck, you're in a very different position. And I think a lot of people don't understand the power of that. So I think that's awesome. You said you're looking to potentially leave your full-time job. So what does that look like for you guys? So where are you at in terms of how many properties you have? What's your goal? What's your exit plan?
Yeah. So right now, so since the end of 2019 to now, we were able to close on a total of 14 rental units.
Nice.
And yeah, thank you, man. So we sold. We sold. We sold two of the units back last summer. And so now we're down to 12 rental units right now, and that just worked out good. I mean, the appreciation on that was like, it went up so much. We were like, we could use this money to like buy more.
Yeah.
And and I say buy more, but because we do 100% financing deals, but just to have that money in case something goes, like, how these appraisers are. So I like to have a backup plan, like ready, just in case, we need to bring cash to the table. It's happened before with one of our deals. And so we want to have cash ready to to be able to, to keep these deals going too. So anyway, so we realized, because we were like so hard at it, Kirby. I mean, we were literally like, we would put everything into these properties and whatever. Yeah. So we were like, okay, well, we probably should sell whilst the market is high right now, and like just to have some reserves like sitting there just in case we need it for whatever.
Nice.
So yeah, so we're at 12 right now, and we'll continue growing our business. And we are, being at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference just opened our mind up to so many different opportunities, man. Just, even hearing you speak about how you've achieved so much success with some short-term rentals and hearing, multifamily and everything too. So we are looking at, even expanding our business into, doing, maybe doing some short-term rentals on some deals, and then maybe doing some multifamily. But then, our approach is always like, one step at a time, right? We're not going to go, I'd like to do everything. But then, the best thing to do is to pick one thing, do very well at that, and then move on to the next. So we're at the point where my wife, she's running the business just about everything. So I've been training her to do just about everything. Nice. And then, the next step is to get into maybe some more short-term rentals, or maybe some small multifamily around anywhere from 5 to 20 units. So that's kind of what's brewing for us. That's coming next, and we'll continue our single family business just because it's a great business model, and you can make a good fortune doing it. And then I'll have my wife running that whilst I'm focusing on expanding.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great, man. Yeah, it's incredible progress in just a couple of years. Well, I'm getting low on rum, so I need to wrap this up. But last question here: how do you? So I think a lot of people are in your same shoes, where they're working full time and trying to make real estate work at the same time, and it's challenging. And a lot of people have families too, and all the other stuff, trying to have some shred of a social life at the same time. So how do you manage all of this? Like, how do you get 14 properties in 2 years while you're working a very full-time job, and your wife was going to school, and you had all the things going on?
So, that's a great question, Kirby. And the short answer to that is really, don't make excuses, make adjustments, right? And so I'm going to say that again, and don't make excuses, make adjustments. And what that looks like for us is, although, I may be working this full-time job, working in construction, and, I'm managing a $600 million project in construction. So it's a lot of energy, a lot of time doing that. I could make an excuse just like saying I don't have any time and this, that, and the next. I even work in a different city, Kirby, so I commute every day, 3 hours.
3 hours.
So yes, so I commute every
Jeez.
day, and it's crazy. Right around the time we got into investing was when I got, I was on that, I was placed on this job, and so it was like, you know, I could have make an excuse. I could just be like, this is too hard. I don't have any time, but instead of making excuses, I decided to make adjustments, and so, and so that means on my drives, when I'm, in the morning and the evening, making phone calls or speaking to different people, and lunch breaks, making phone calls, and then also weekends, evenings, and even like, like how we're talking now. So sometimes people may not be. Sometimes when we couldn't find meetings during the work hours because I'm working the job, just like how I asked you, hey man, do you have any time in the evening? Right. So,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
asking the questions, like we've literally talked to some people, who work, during the regular business hours, and we did it we did business in the evenings or the weekends. And so just really finding a way to make it work. And then, thankfully now my wife is full time into it. Starting last year, she started full time. So that definitely takes a lot of the pressure off, because now I could just focus on expanding the business. I could focus on all the different things. I could focus on networking, and even being able to give back and help other investors. I could focus on those things more as well since she's joined the business. But it's really, again, not making excuses, making adjustments, making it work. We make time to do what we want to do in the end. I'm a firm believer
Absolutely.
of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're clear on your goals. I think that makes such a huge difference too, because you know what you're working toward. Yeah, I got to give up a little bit now, but you're still pretty young. And before you even have a family to have to juggle, you're going to be in a much different financial position to be able to support that family. So I commend you for, I mean, obviously you have a track record going back to when you're 17 years old, just figuring out I'm going to make this work, making a decision and leaving it with a one-way ticket and figuring out how to finance your schooling, and then figuring out how to make real estate work. So I know you're just at the beginning of your success journey, and I'm really impressed with all you've accomplished so far. And so I appreciate you coming on tonight. I appreciate the information. I know the community is really going to benefit from hearing this.
Thank you, Kirby, and I appreciate you. I appreciate just the opportunity to be here and share this story to inspire others, because I'm just a regular guy, literally, and if I can do this, then everyone who's listening can do this, no matter where you are, no matter where you are on your journey, whether you're at no properties or two properties, three properties, wherever you are, you can do this. And it's nothing special about me, except, I'm just, just like Kirby, I'm going after my dreams, and so many other people who we connect with. So again, don't make excuses, make adjustments. If you only remember one thing from this,
It's a good
don't
thing to
make
remember.
excuses, make adjustments. And then also, whenever you need to stay up, late, like Kirby, just drink some rum and Coke, right?
That's right. Exactly, man. I'm so glad I tapped into that Bahamas spirit here. Uh, if people want to get in touch with you, what do you? Is it social media, or do you have an email, or what's the best way?
Yeah, so I am on social media. If you search Charles Rose Jr., you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. And then so my email, so I really, I go by two emails right now. So So for my rental property business, it's just Charles at roserentalhomes.com. So the homes is plural, Charles at Rose Rental Homes. And then, for everything that I do with Dustin Heiner to help investors achieve their dreams through real estate. If you have any questions in that area, is Charles at masterpassiveincome.com. So either of those emails, you can reach me on. I check both of them. They all come in the same box. So, I'll get it.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And you'll probably have a couple of people reach out to you and, tap into your knowledge. So I appreciate again your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, Kirby. I'll talk to you soon.